Please register your presence. Fill in the chat to indicate where you are located, the names of the people that are with you, because we want to track the attendance of the session. Please use the chat box and register your connection. You tell us we are in Tanzania, Bugando, our connection is in Bugando, and we are so many people. You write at least their names and send in the chat. That will be sufficient for us to monitor what is ongoing. Otherwise, we'll be passing out announcements at the end, towards the end of the session. So without wasting much time, I would want to open up the session to our presenters. So today, we are delighted to have two exciting presentations. One from South Africa. South Africa, NHLS will be sharing their LIMS and just giving us a snapshot of how their LIMS is structured and how it operates. And then Zambia is going to be giving us a case study of a module of the LIMS, which is called eLABS. That is helping to create a loop, to connect between sample collection up to the point when the results get back to the patient. We are trying to understand how laboratory information systems can be very instrumental in data management, automating the laboratory process, as well as support the M&E, but also improve result utilization and patient tracking. So that's what we are going to learn. I take the pressure. So if you are not speaking, you put yourself on mute, so we avoid the echoes that will interrupt. Chifundo, I think you will need to mute yourself, okay? Yes, thank you very much. So I welcome all of you from the different hubs. I cannot list all of the hubs that are here, but I'm seeing quite a number of countries looped in, a number of stakeholders. I'm even seeing somebody from Senegal. That's great. Bruce, you're welcome, and everybody from Malawi, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone. I'm wondering whether Sierra Leone, I'm not yet seeing Sierra Leone on, but Ethiopia and the rest of us who are online, you are all welcome. And I know in the course of time, many more people are going to be joining. Otherwise, it's going to be an exciting session. So without wasting any more time, I want to give the floor to our first presenter, who is Kumbirai from the NHLS South Africa, to give us our first presentation, which will be about 15 minutes. And then Lindiwe from Zambia will also give us the case presentation for another 15 minutes, and then we'll react. Please keep jotting your questions in the chat. Keep jotting your questions in the chat, and also register your presence in the chat. Thank you very much. So Kumbirai, please, you're welcome. Start sharing. Yes, Kumbirai, put your slides on presentation mode and then start. Hello?
Kumbirai, you're on mute.
Kumbirai, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles Kiaga, and welcome to all the members present. And I'd like to thank you for the privilege to give us an opportunity to present to you the case study of South Africa with regards to laboratory information management systems. So I'm going to take you through the South African case study, and I will, the basic structure of the presentation.
Yeah, put your slides on presentation mode.
Yes, they are on presentation mode.
No, they are not.
They're not.
Okay, there you are.
Okay, probably there's a problem, but hold on.
No, they are there now. They are on presentation mode. Start pacing through them.
All right, I'm going to take you through 4 basic points. Which, firstly, we'll define what an LIS is, and then we talk about the value of an LIS, and then we also try to touch on the different LIS packages that exist, and then we'll present a case study of our journey in South Africa in terms of implementation of an LIS. So moving to the definition of an LIS. So an LIS standing for Laboratory Information System. Others may refer to it as a Laboratory Information Management System or a Laboratory Management System. So all those 3 terms or abbreviations, they actually refer to the same thing, which is basically a software-based laboratory system. So there is a computer involved and software involved in the whole management of laboratory processes within a laboratory. So we just mentioned modern because most of the labs that we have today are moving towards the 4th generation where everything is connected. So the key features of an LIS include workflow management, data tracking support, flexible architecture, and data exchange interfaces, which are most importantly used in a regulated environment. So these are just key features, but not limited to that. So there's an aspect of workflow management. You can actually see what we are doing in terms of tracking the activities of the lab, and it is also an element of exchange in terms of data. So we then move on to look at what is the value of an LIS. Why should we have an LIS after all in a laboratory?
But
so
are you trying to move your slides? Are you trying to move your slides?
Yes, we are on slide number 6. Why should we have an LIS?
Okay. I wonder, are the slides moving on the end of the others?
No, they haven't.
No, they are not moving.
No, we're still on page 1.
You are not in presentation mode, yeah.
So I've just closed the application and opened it again.
Okay.
Okay, now can you put in the presentation mode?
Okay, can you try to move to the next slide?
Next slide, I've moved.
You have moved.
You've moved now.
It's not moving.
Not moving. Did you put it in the presentation mode on your end?
Yes.
I think let me try to share them in the interest of time. Yeah.
Yes.
You can just tell me when it's time to move to the next slide, that next slide.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, colleagues, for the interruption, but because we want you to visualize the presentation.
Is that the presentation? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes. Can you?
Okay,
yes,
can begin.
Get to the second one. Okay. The next one.
Are they moving now?
They are moving.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that should, I don't know.
Okay, sorry, you can begin. You just tell me to move to the next slide.
You go. Which slide? 6. Okay. So
You are muted. Kumbirai, you are muted.
Mute. You are on mute. Unmute yourself, okay? Please go on.
Right, slide number 6. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. So apologies for the interruption. So moving on to the reason. So we defined an LIS as a software-based application that is used in a laboratory to manage workflow, and also there's data exchange that is involved. So we now want to establish and look at why should we actually have an LIS? So the first attribute that I can highlight is that there's data management, where instant availability of management reports is there, and there's also improved data quality in the sense that there are rules that are put in an LIS to accept certain values with certain characteristics so that we have consistency in data. And it also provides a platform for automation, to automate laboratory processes. And so in that process, when you automate, it means you actually avoid like errors, like result transcription, where you don't have to enter the results manually, but the results are transmitted electronically from an analyzer. And we've also seen that there's improvement in intra-lab turnaround time, because not everything is done manually, but there's electronic processes that are in the process. And then by so doing, you can also now have an automated standard report. So the results, when they are ready and available, you can generate a standard report with the lab logo, with contact information, and also the standard way of reporting the results, including reference ranges and other comments that may be required. And it also provides for automatic reviewing of normal results. So in the event that you know that your QC has passed, and anything that is normal, you don't want to waste time and you have a person looking at them, you can actually set the LIS to say, can you automatically review and authorize the normal results? And there's also the capability of automating the communication of results. So there's multiple platforms that are there electronically. So you can do an SMS, you can send SMS results, you can send results also via email. You can also make the results available via a web interface where users are given login details, login and view results. You can also develop mobile apps that can actually be used by clinicians to view results, in addition to the standard paper report. With an electronic system and LIS, you also can immediately communicate results that require action. So it requires results that require action, like your rejections, invalids, and anything that is abnormal. And there's also improved utilization of results, because you have the ability to monitor the results are being used by facilities or not. And if not, you can then be proactive and act on it. There's also a capability of electronic gatekeeping. So by electronic gatekeeping is managing resources in the sense that when a sample has been collected and the result is available, the clinician doesn't have to re-request or reorder a test because the result is already available. So the system will keep that part to say, you already have a result, so there's no need of ordering another test. And then for the sake of managing programs, from a click of a button, you can set up reports that you can use to manage and monitor and evaluate processes that pertain to the program. Next slide, please. Next slide. Right, I'm going to take you through about LIMS. So when we hear the word LIMS or LIS, you may think that they are all the same. In as much as they attempt to provide the same output, they are basically not the same. So they are different maturity levels, which is something that we're going to discuss now. So it's important for a customer or for whoever wants to acquire an LIS to fully understand the technology and the differences that exist. So if you are in a process of trying to acquire a LIMS, it's important that some research is done so that you understand the technologies that are available and the different packages that they have to offer. So that the decisions that you make today are actually going to impact you in the future. So that is very, very important. You also need to understand the return on investment and the value proposition of the LIS that you are going to take. So it may come in a box that is an LIS, but you need to look at what is the value, what are the requirements, what are our needs, so that that LIS that you are preparing, it actually meets the requirements of, meets your requirement. So this helps you to avoid any surprises when the LIS is implemented. And we've seen in many other places where users then get surprised that, oh, this application can't do this. But if you have prior knowledge of what an LIS is and what you want to achieve and the different platforms that exist, you can avoid this aspect. Next slide, please. Right. These are the 6 points that we are seeing there are the main considerations that you need to consider for you to get a proper LIS. So there's different technical considerations that you need to.
Some of the reports, and we even do them in
Please yourself. Somebody who is doing mute and unmute, be more efficient. Please continue.
So there are technical considerations to look at. There is cost of ownership, whether is it going to be your application or you're just going to use it on a lease model. And usability. This is also very important because the end users are the ones who use the application day to day. So the application must be usable, must be user-friendly, must be easy to use or user-friendly for the end users. The end users being the laboratory clerks, the laboratory technicians, the technologists, pathologists, anyone who is going to use the application is referred to as an end user. So those people need to be considered at great length because when they say they're going to work, that's the platform that they work from. And then you also need to look at the features, functionality, and familiarity. So based on your environment, and environment I'm referring to maybe country differences and country policies and country regulations. So there are features and functionalities that are regulated within a particular country. So that should also inform you when you consider an application. Then you also look at security. Security is critical because we are dealing with patient information. So you need to understand whether the data is safe, patient information is safe, and this is done in the confines of in-country regulatory framework so that there is compliance. And then if there is you're going to get a company to do it for you, an organization, you need to know their history, their experience in terms of provision for LISs and also the support after implementation. So these are, I saw as the critical considerations for an LIS selection. Next slide, please. Right, so there's different options that exist. So you've got an open source LIS, you have an in-house, or you have a commercial package. So these, we tried to differentiate them or discuss them based on efficiency, cost effectiveness, and sustainability. So if you look at the open source and in-house, so those ones are mainly dependent on the on the developers that you have in-house, because you get an open source application, going forward, you would need to customize it. You need to make it and configure it according to your requirements. So it's important that you have a strong development team in-house that understands the standards and also the regulatory framework, so that all those features are embedded within an LIS. And then in terms of cost effectiveness, both the open source and in-house, they may appear to be cheaper, but system efficiencies may not be guaranteed, because you are working with your internal development team that may not have full exposure of what is happening externally in terms of the trends and standards in the whole bigger picture of development. So for sustainability, funds, each an open source, in-house or commercial, funds should always be available, because all systems, it's not like when you implement a system, that's it. So systems go through a life cycle where there are new features that should be developed. There's also day-to-day support, day-to-day maintenance of the system. So all that requires money. And when there's a new feature, there's training. So there should always be money available to sustain the product. A commercial system is mostly an efficient system because it's backed by a contract and a service level agreement with a system vendor. So you actually pay for a service. So if they don't deliver, there are penalties that are in the contract. So in terms of efficiency, this becomes a more efficient package because of the contracts that are involved. And then for sustainability, it's normally a range of 15 to 25% of the total cost of implementation, or the amount of money you use to procure to do the initial setup. So 15 to 25% of that becomes your annual maintenance. Next slide, please.
Next.
Right, so moving to South Africa, and it's important for me to indicate that the NHLS, the National Health Laboratory Service, is a diagnostic pathology service provider within South Africa, and it operates 266 laboratories across the country, and provides service to more than 80% of the population. So all public hospitals, next to it is an NHLS laboratory, which so the main customer or client is the Ministry of Health or Department of Health. So NHLS has used an LIS for a very long time. Actually, we could not even tell when we started using an LIS, but I'll take you through the transition that we went through in 2009, where we moved from one LIS to another LIS. So currently we are using a commercial LIS called Track Care LIS, which is a commercial application. So in 2009, that's when we moved from the previous system to the current system. So I'll just highlight how we went about in terms of the rollout, and also why we decided to move to that LIS and the advantages that come with that LIS. So when we did the implementation, we started with a pilot in a single hospital. So there was one laboratory at a hospital that we piloted the application. And then when the application was evaluated and signed off, we then expanded to the rest of the province, where we started that whole application. And then we've got 10 provinces in the country. It took us 5 years to roll out to all the 266 laboratories across the country. So you can imagine how big that this implementation was. So the reason why we actually moved was that we wanted to enhance exchange of patient demographics, order entry, because some of the hospitals that we already have in South Africa have got a health information system. So we needed a centralized system that is interoperable with already existing legacy hospital information systems. So to date, we've got 17 different systems that are integrated to track care, which share patient demographics and results in the form of ordering and sending results back. So track care system is central. There's one single database and everyone connects to that database. And we also have a disaster recovery site. In case there's a disaster, we can switch over to another application. So this capability of exchange of information between multiple systems is due to the fact that care utilizes a powerful inter-systems ensemble engine, which enables integration and interoperability between systems. So all analyzers within the country, they are integrated via this ensemble engine. All integrations with other hospital information systems is also via this powerful ensemble engine. Next slide, please.
Quickly try to summarize now. We are eating into the time because we had some challenge at the start.
All right. So I'm just going to take you through how we went through the whole implementation from acquiring the system. So we started by gathering the requirements.
Yes, Kumbirai, you try to summarize.
Okay, all right. Perfect. So just as you are seeing on the slide, we went through a four-step process guided by a procurement framework. And then we did site assessments, we configured the system, we created a project management, and then we did super user training, change management. We rolled it out to the facilities and did on-the-job user training, and then we provided post-implementation support. Next slide, please. Yes, so the slide you are seeing now shows you the development life cycle and the stakeholders that are involved in the case where you want to enhance the system or add new features, where we gather requirements, technical specification, application development, we do testing, and then we release the features into the environment. Next slide, please. Right, so this is the last slide. So the outcomes, the system has reduced costs by reducing duplication and waste, as efficiencies can be monitored and managed also through gatekeeping. And then turnaround time for laboratory results has improved, thus enabling faster diagnosis and better patient outcomes. And then this applies to all diseases, but is very important for TB and HIV that are currently part of the high burden of disease in South Africa. And KZN, which is the highest HIV positive population in SA, is reportedly a significant improvement in turning around laboratory results and supporting both early infant diagnosis and treatment of HIV positive population. So with this system, we can follow our viral loads. We can actually tell the suppression. We can tell the turnaround time per facility, per region, per province, and we can map out where the high burden is based on the information that we put into our central data warehouse. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, you mute yourself. Mute yourself so we avoid echoes. Yes,
Charles, I think you mistakenly gave something else.
Okay. So thank you, Kumbirai, for that very interesting session. Now, Nicholas, you should be bringing in, the one for Zambia. So I take the privilege to welcome our next presenter. We got a bit of technical challenge at the start, and we lost a bit of time. So Lindiwe, you have to work within 15 minutes. Otherwise, we will have no time for reaction. So since it's already on, Lindiwe, please, you're welcome. Come and take us through in the next 15 minutes. Hello, are you on mute? If you are, please unmute yourself. Lindiwe?
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Charles. Thank you very much. I'll be presenting the viral load data management through the LIMS for better program monitoring and results communication and utilization through the eLABS case study from Zambia. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the presentation consists of, go to the previous slide, please. Yes. The presentation consists of the LIMS and its importance, the eLABS and LIMS packages we have here in Zambia, the eLABS integration and its importance, its operations in Zambia, the strength and weaknesses of eLABS, as well as the lessons learned and recommendations. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we'll go to the eLABS and LIMS packages that we have in Zambia, but first we're going to look at the LIMS and its importance. So the Laboratory Information System is a system software that records, manages, and stores data in laboratories. And the importance of this is that it enables laboratories to easily automate workflow, integrate instruments, both in the lab and outside. That helps us to reduce the intra-lab turnaround time. The LIS also enables the automated transmission of results to facilities, thereby positively impacting on the patient care as clinicians are able to access patient results on time. Next slide, please. So we have quite a number of LIMS packages in Zambia. That includes the DISA Lab, eLABS, Program Mana, DISA Link, as well as Smart Care. So the most used LIMS package in Zambia is the DISA Lab, which is used in most PCR labs in Zambia, which is on a desktop platform, and it's currently integrated into eLABS, Smart Care, and Program Mana on a full level integration. And on Program Mana, it is on partial integration central level, as well as on Smart Care. The challenge with the DISA Lab system is that it's decentralized. However, it can be mitigated through version management. The other eLABS, the other LIMS packages we have in Zambia is the eLABS system, which is the order entry, sample tracking, and results delivery system. It is on a Smart Care, it's on a smartphone platform, as well as its current integration is on the DISA LIS. It's on full bi-directional level, which means eLABS and DISA are able to communicate to each other, as well as exchange of information. This eLABS system, however, has a challenge of internet connection, where whenever we don't have internet connection, the app is halted. However, this is managed by the backup internet system at the lab. We also have the Program Mana LIS package, which is used for results delivery. It's on a cell phone platform, and this is used to deliver EID results. It is also currently integrated into DISA on a partial and on a full integration level. And its challenge is that some areas have poor connectivity since it's on a cell phone platform. So some areas experience poor network connectivity. However, this is mitigated by the staff going to an area where we have a good connectivity and they're able to access these results. Next slide, please. So Smart Care is another LIS package that we have in Zambia. It's on a desk phone platform, and it's used for results transmission directly on a patient's file in Smart Care. So it's currently integrated into DISA Lab on a partial integration level. However, it has a challenge whereby it's inhibited by incorrect patient information entry. and this will result into failure to match a patient's result with a smart care record. However, this is mitigated by renting of staff on a unique patient ID entry, as well as bi-directional communication, which is being developed to allow smart care talk directly to DISA, as well as DISA exchange of information between DISA and smart care without interference. So the other link that we have in Zambia, the LIMS package, is the DISA link, which is a remote registration of tests and sample tracking, which also allows facilities to print their results from where they are. It's on a desktop platform, and it's currently integrated into DISA on a full integration level. It is, however, also affected by internet connectivity, which can be mitigated by provision of data bundles on a monthly basis, and the DISA link will be able to work correctly. Next slide, please.
Next one.
Next slide. So we'll go straight into the operations of eLABS in Zambia. So eLABS is a mobile application that was developed to improve the viral load value chain. When we say the viral load value chain, we mean from the time a requisition is entered onto the system at the healthcare facility, up to when it's transported to the hubs and delivered, and results delivered back to the patients at the facility. So it's an online centralized health system. It has electronic order entry module, near real-time tracking of specimens, and all this is monitored on a system dashboard. eLABS is also interoperable with other legacy laboratory systems, and it's easily accessible through our web portal. Once you are given permission to do so, you can easily monitor this process from when the sample is requested up to when the result is delivered back to the facility through our dashboard system. Next slide, please. Okay, so through the eLABS system, we're able to monitor three critical stages, which are the pre-analytical stage, the intra-lab, as well as the post-analytical stage. So in the pre-analytical stage, we monitor the requisitions, the electronic requisitions that are happening at healthcare facilities, the sample tracking, the code chain, as well as the delivery TAT. In the intra-lab section, we're able to monitor the interoperability of eLABS and DISA, as well as automate results communication to healthcare facilities upon authorization. In the post-analytical stage, we are able to monitor the results that are sent back to facilities, the critical results, the rejection alerts, and this is done near real time through our web portal. Next slide, please. So here we're going to look at the integration of eLABS with DISA and its importance. So system integration, also known as interoperability, refers to the ability of IT systems to talk to each other in order to exchange information. The goal of system integration is to speed up information flows and reduce operational costs. So sample processing at PCR begins with registration of samples onto the DISA LIS. The DISA LIS is a system used in all PCR labs across Zambia, and it's a system that requires client information to be entered manually at the testing lab and takes a minimum of 3 minutes per sample. So eLABS DISA integration is essential in that it allows a registration of samples to happen at a faster rate, as client information is captured at the facility upon registration of these requisitions on eLABS. And only a sample barcode is scanned once the sample is delivered at the lab to get the information that was already registered and verify the information for us to do the registration on DISA lab at PCR in readiness for processing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
There. You're there already.
Next slide.
You don't see the slide? Accept
Okay.
order. Isn't that the one you want?
Yes, it has just changed. So this slide is showing you how the registration is done via the integration. So once a sample is brought to the lab with the eLABS barcode, it's scanned, and that's the information that we get. All the patient's demographics are gotten through the integration, and we accept this specimen. This integration reduces registration time by 80% in the lab, which reduces the bottlenecks of sample registration directly on DISA LIS. And this also helps us contribute to the reduction in the turnaround time in the lab. Next slide, please. So this slide also speaks to the integration, and this it allows us to reject a sample once it comes in the lab, and it qualifies for our rejection criteria. So once a sample is rejected via the eLABS DISA integration, eLABS sends an alert directly to the facility saying this sample has been rejected, kindly act on this immediately. It is also, this integration also helps us do targeted training for where we have a high number of rejections coming through the lab. Next slide, please.
Next.
So we continue with the operations of eLABS in Zambia. So eLABS coverage in Zambia. eLABS is fully implemented in 5 provinces of Zambia. There are 3 partners that are implementing eLABS, which is JSI, CIDAS, and EQUIP. EQUIP has fully implemented eLABS in 3 provinces of Zambia. And CIDAS will have 1 province implemented by them and 1 province implemented by JSI. And we have facilities that are in progress of implementation. So by the end of September 2019, we expect to have eLABS coverage of 30.5%, and this will result in having 449 facilities in Zambia having access to eLABS. Next slide, please. So this slide speaks to our eLABS dashboard, what we are able to see from our eLABS dashboard. So on the left, we have the sample volumes that are being processed at our PCR lab in Muchinga province. You can see the volume of samples that the lab is able to process every month, and we are able to see that the rejection rate from this lab is 0.3. The average separation rate is 85%, as well as the average turnaround time is at 11 days. This is all gotten from the eLABS dashboard that we constantly monitor. On the right, we have the turnaround time in days. So the upper bar on the 90 is when is before we came into the lab as equipped with the eLABS project, and we believe that eLABS has helped us to reduce the turnaround time, which you can see that the national turnaround time, the green bar, which is at 14 days, is being, we are currently working under the national turnaround time of 14 days, which we have our average turnaround time in Muchinga province at 11 days. So we believe that eLABS has greatly contributed to this turnaround time. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I think you should be wrapping up.
So, how is results communication facilitated via eLABS? So eLABS automatically transmits results to facilities, and there's no need to wait for paper-based results. eLABS also flags results for immediate action on our results platform, which is results that are above 1,000 copies, rejections, as well as invalids. And eLABS also enables clinicians to record results on patient files as well as act on patients that have high viral loads. This is all monitored via the dashboard, and we are able to notice trends that are happening at a particular facility and act in time, as well as targeted training for facilities that have gaps in the utilization of the app. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So like any other app, eLABS has strengths and weaknesses. Some of the strengths that eLABS has is the sample chain of custody that defines and strengthens the clinical laboratory interface. It also facilitates us to see the audit, which it also facilitates us to see the audit trail and notice gaps and allows targeted intervention, as well as its decentralized order entry, reduces sample registration bottlenecks at the testing lab. Its interoperability also helps us, through the integration, also helps us reduce turnaround time in the lab, as well as the rapid results communication, because upon authorization, eLABS automatically transmits results to facilities all over the province, which means results are rapidly communicated and acted upon immediately. However, it also has a few weaknesses, which that it's dependent on internet. However, late synchronization is possible. The theft of devices also is another weakness, and the organization has policy to safeguard these assets, as well as abuse of data by personnel in facilities, where zero rating is a mitigation for this also. Next slide, please.
Wrap up quickly.
So the sustainability of eLABS is that eLABS is fit for use, it's fit for purpose, it's adaptable, its user average score is of 89%, of which the acceptable is 70 and an excellent score of 85. Its user uptake is over 90% in all provinces based on samples received at the lab. eLABS can also be expanded and used for other lab tests. And once it's expanded to other provinces and all facilities across Zambia, the MOH can negotiate lower prices for mobile data provision through the economies of scale. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, if you are not speaking, keep yourself on mute. There has been some interruption at times. Doing the mute,
I mean, like the purchase paper, or
you need to do a better job because I'm getting some interruption. Okay, so thank you very much. This has been very informative. Both presentations really showing the power of LIS in improving the laboratory process, as well as connecting right from sample collection to when patients receive results. So South Africa and Zambia, thank you very much for sharing your experience with the rest of the with the members of the community. I know we have little time left, and there should be quite a number of questions. We have about 5 or 6 minutes within which to ask the questions. Be brief, and I know somebody must have been monitoring the chat. So we may answer a few questions, but you remember we have the WhatsApp group where continued communication, which never stops, continues. So within the next 5 minutes or so, let us do what we can. The rest of the questions can be answered on the WhatsApp group.
The first question is from Hilale. And is asking how was the evaluation done? I think this is a question South Africa. How did the project quantify impacts? How was the evaluation done? How did the project quantify impacts?
No, you continue. Read about 3 questions, 3 to 4 questions, and we answer that. And we.
Okay, thank you. Then the other question is from Raphael. Is there room to upgrade and expand if menu increases? And are there charges for upgrading in brackets, if any, from HIV, viral load, EID, and TB. And then the other question is from Lindsay, and I think this is a response to the other question. The other question again from Raphael is, do you only review abnormal results or all?
Okay.
So, touching on the
okay. Yeah.
the evaluation process.
Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Mute yourself, please. So Kumbirai, please go ahead.
So
I don't know whether it's a connection problem. Hello?
Yes, can you hear me? The evaluation process, we appointed an independent consultant to do an evaluation after implementation of Lab, and they engaged with users and assessed the infrastructure and gave an independent report and advised us to proceed or to make changes. So there were some recommendations that were made to modify the application and make it suitable for the environment.
Okay, thank you. The other question from Innocent, and this one goes to Zambia. These look too many. How do they at the end of the day speak to each other or draw information stock data at one place for national statistics aggregation? Once again, these look too many. How do they at the end of the day speak to each other or draw information, stock data to one place for national statistics aggregation? And then the other question still for Zambia is eLABS open source? Is eLABS open source? And then the last one from Dr. Ritu is, what is the cost of the service? What is the cost of the service? Thank you.
Okay, Lindiwe, please, quickly.
Okay, so the first question, we're saying that the LIMS are too many. They all communicate different results. We have the program one that communicates EID results. The eLABS communicates viral load results, but they are all integrated into one LIS system where all registrations that come in the lab are done, which is the DISA system. So whether eLAB, whether viral load or EID, this information is already on the DISA system, and these apps being integrated into the DISA system are able to fish out the information that they need from this main DISA LIS in the PCR lab.
Mm-hmm. Is it open source, eLABS? Is it open source?
So eLABS, so eLABS is a commercial application that is owned by Wits Health Consortium and NHLS.
Okay. So there was another question about expanding modules and if there is any charges for upgrade, that is for South Africa. And then the one for cost was for Zambia. Maybe South Africa also, because both of them are commercial. How sustainable is it commercial? I mean, in terms monetary, what does it take to have this package?
Yeah, so so for the sake of cost, the best is it's determined by scale, by volume, by number of labs, number of users, and licensing models. They vary. There's concurrent licensing, there's a user license. So what I would recommend is you can request a a quotation like an RFQ to say, I've got A, B, C, D. Because if I tell you a cost like for South Africa with 266 labs, it doesn't, and the volume that South Africa does may not apply to another country.
Okay. So I think, oh yeah, you answer the question. If there is an upgrade or expansion, a functionality, do you pay more? Do you pay, is there that room for expansion, and do you pay necessarily more money by wishing to extend its usability to fit your country needs?
So there's two things. There's aspects of usability where we talk about making the application friendly and usable. So that one is a system upgrade that is contained by the service provider to make it usable. But if there are additional features that are required, then for every development, there are development hours, and there is need for money to be paid for that aspect.
Okay. So because of time, I will not allow any other question. I think this is quite insightful. And please, I know Kumbirai, and I think Lindiwe, you are both on WhatsApp. If you are not, please send if especially Lindiwe, I'm not sure, but Kumbirai, you must be. If you are not, please send your phone immediately so that we can put your phone on WhatsApp, because people are going to continue asking questions. We did not have enough time to address the questions. Make sure you are available to answer the questions that will follow. So let the discussion continue, and other countries, you can also share your experiences of how you're juggling with the LIMS, especially the people who are having in-house built systems. What do you find comparing about them? For these systems which are commercial, it looks like you have to pay indefinitely. And I wonder why can't you build capacity in-house to continue in the long term to manage the operations? But that one can be addressed on WhatsApp. So thank you all of you who have been on this call. We want to thank the countries that have given us the impact assessment. We have pretty much done most of it. Only one country is left, but this is quite helpful and informative. Then COP19, we continue to actually remind you if there is any window still open to push your wish list or your action plan wishes. Please make sure you work with your in-country mechanisms. Your implementing partners are doing their continuation application. Make sure that the tools that we developed, the decision-making matrix and your country action plan are shared with these partners so that those activities that you wish to be done find funding. Then the issue of capacity, the International AIDS Conference is coming in July, and we requested those of you who have confirmed you are going to attend, please indicate, send me a mail or send on WhatsApp and indicate that you're going to be in Mexico, because we plan to have a side meeting and we would want to have a light moment while there. If we know you're there, we'll make sure you're part of that side meeting that we are going to have as a community. And then another thing is the capacity building training that I told you about in Galilee, where we have some scholarships. I know I sent out some communications some time back. Even the Institute could have sent you communication, but this training was pushed by 1 week within September. So it will be beginning on the 10th of September, I think, up to the 24th or 23rd of September. So please work within your mechanisms to find the local cost like your flight and the accommodation. Otherwise, the training fees were waived for us so that we build more capacity for leadership. Thank you very much. It's been quite informative, and quite engaging. We are sorry for the questions that we've not been able to address because of time, but I promise you the discussion will become more exhaustive when we go to the WhatsApp, which never stops. Have a great day, the rest of the week. We will be telling you we have the waste management training coming in, but we'll be sending out in communications and details of when the training is going to be ready, and keep your ears on the wall to make sure that you attend that training. So have a good time. Thank you for being around. And thanks a lot for our presenters for such an impressive presentation. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.